Welcome to They Called Me Mental, a rabble-rousers podcast. We're a group of young adult mental health advocates breaking stigmas and bringing awareness to the reality of life with mental illness. This podcast contains discussions of mental health and substance use. Some topics may be triggering to listeners. Rabble-rousers projects are made possible by community donations to the Coast Foundation Society. Thank you for your support. I'm here this morning with Mel and Amy. Thank you guys so much for being here on the podcast today. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
And Mel and Amy do the brain training program at the Young Adults program. So do you guys want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm Amy, and I am a social worker at Coast Mental Health. Brain training is one of the programs. It's like more formally called cognitive remediation. And it's teaching strategies in how to deal with some cognitive deficits that everybody experiences, maybe on like a spectrum. So things that might impact that are like medications. People might experience like fatigue and brain fog. If anybody's had like an injury or cognitive side effects of like mental health issues. And we just teach strategies to help with memory, paying attention and focusing, executive functioning, so decision-making, planning, organization, cognitive flexibility, so our ability to be flexible between switching tasks, so thinking outside the box, things like that.
And I'm Mel, and I work alongside Amy. So I'm a mental health counselor and cognitive remediation facilitator. And we're really fortunate because we actually go throughout Coast Mental Health and facilitate group sessions and individual sessions regarding brain training. Currently, we're at, I would say, I think over 20 programs that we deliver brain training to. So it's pretty amazing. It's a very cool and exciting program.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have you guys. All super helpful skills to have. I'm really enjoying the opportunity to learn some of that stuff. But most importantly, we do the Wordle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wordle. We love Wordle. Wordle becomes quite competitive. And, you know, we start every group off with some icebreaker activities. So Wordle, connections. We have a music game that we play that's called Hurdle. And it's just a way to get the mind going, specifically sometimes early in the morning if the group's like an earlier session, and if it's after lunch, just to sort of help as you sort of hit that like midday crash. And we love them because it's really challenging, like group work together. Normally people play Wordle on their own, but doing it in a group session, you're really sort of like forced to problem solve with other individuals, work as a team.
Yeah.
The confidence boost that you see people have when they might be the one that figures out what the word is it's really, really cool to see.
Well, and the celebration that everybody has for the other person when they like get it, or as a team when it's like, yeah, we did it.
And it's interesting, you know, the icebreakers that we use, that was actually a really positive thing that came out of the pandemic. So when brain training shifted to online, it was figuring out ways that we could still offer sessions virtually, but everybody was in their own personal space. And being able to play a game together virtually brought everybody sort of back together and made us like feel really connected. So when we shifted back to in-person groups, we always continued with it.
Oh, that's really cool. That was before I was here. So I did not experience the pandemic times, but I love doing the check-in and check-out too, because then everyone yells at me when I don't do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah. It's cool to hear you say that because the check-in and the check-out, it's very scripted. It's repetitive. A key part of brain training is repetition. You do the same thing over and over again. Eventually your brain will catch on and you can do whatever that might be without making a mistake. So we keep the check-in script very repetitive. You always know what to expect. But by saying, you know, at the end of each session, one goal or like small commitment for the week, it holds you accountable. And it also really brings people together. You really see a social connection piece in brain training because you do get yelled at by your peers if you didn't do the thing that you said you were going to do.
We're all keeping tabs on each other's lives that way.
The nice thing is, as facilitators, we're very much a part of that. So we're setting our goals, we're being held accountable, we're owning up when we haven't done something that we didn't do. And then we can figure out maybe why it was that I wasn't able to do the thing that I said I would do as a team. So it's,
I definitely have times where I've set a goal and then my like motivating factor to complete it is like, oh, I have to report back. Then I've like done it or not. So
Yeah, I think I've literally said that before. Like, I did this thing, like came in the morning, like I did it. I did the thing I said I was going to do. Yeah.
And with the young adults, specifically on Tuesday mornings, we've started clapping for each other after we say one positive thing at the check-in. And we clap when everybody like sets their goal, and it just adds like a really like lighthearted spin on it. But you feel like, oh, I accomplished something.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny trying to see like when everybody we're saying like our positive thing that's happened that day, like everybody like is celebrating or somebody's like struggling to find the positive, other people will be like, oh, well, you did this or you did that and like things like that. So it's the support that people have for each other. It's like really uplifting and like definitely helps like build the community for sure.
And we were quite intentional when we came up with our check-in questions. The first check-in question is always like, how are you feeling in this moment? Trying to name or describe an emotion outside of saying good or bad. The add or judgments, they sort of change from person to person. And it really just teaches you how, if you're able to describe exactly what it is that's happening for you in that moment, people are better able to like understand. And so how could that help you in terms of like seeking support or like advocating for yourself, learning to be able to say like, this is what I need in this moment, or this is how I'm feeling. And to be able to do that with support of your peers is a really powerful thing. We always ask one positive thing just to practice gratitude.
Yeah.
Life is really hard. Some days are incredibly difficult. And looking at gratitude from, I got out of bed today, and then acknowledging and giving yourself credit for doing that because it was really hard and you did it.
Yeah, actually the group that I ran here yesterday, they were saying like trying to find that like positive and like the thing that they're grateful for each day. Some days are easier and some days are harder than others. But even just having that gratitude of, I have a bed or I have a roof over my head, and talking about how for some that might seem like something that we might take for granted if we've not had that previously, right? And how reminding ourselves that those are things that maybe people have like worked towards. And our brain, it doesn't help that our brain is wired to focus on the negative, right? Like it's looking for the things to help protect us. So from a survival standpoint, we're looking for the negative. Our brain is scanning for danger about every 4 seconds, I think it is. So it actually takes like intention and effort to practice gratitude, but it's doing that helps will rewire our brain and to acknowledge the positives, because oftentimes we kind of overlook those, or it's harder for us to see those moments, right? And we kind of like discount them or minimize them.
Yeah, I think a lot of days, more than one person's positive for the day will be like something that happened at programming. Like we went out for coffee, or like art was good or something like that.
The coffee outing is a very big piece because of gratitude that comes up in the Tuesday group. Grateful for the coffee, grateful for like the walk that we got to do on a nice day when we went to get the coffee. And it's really nice too, because you see sometimes like a participant might say like, I'm not sure what I'm grateful for. And you'll hear other people say like, well, you come here, we went for coffee. And it's, building each other up. And brain training, at its core is all about sort of like empowerment, and it's neat to see people become empowered. And a lot of that comes from like their peers offering that support in a really safe space.
Yeah, same actually. On Thursdays, there's the food sustainability group beforehand. And people will acknowledge and say like, oh, I'm grateful that I went to food sustainability today. I have groceries, right? And like being able to like have those moments where sort of, I guess, like what we might take for is like as normalcy, right? Where it's not necessarily the case for every single person, but being able to do that and to support yourself and support others in that way, for sure. It's amazing.
So could you guys talk a little bit about how you got into that work? Maybe some of your personal experiences with mental health, or what, kind of your journey getting into this work?
So I have worked at Coast Mental Health now for over 10 years. I've been really fortunate that I've had a variety of roles that I've had. So I've always worked in the addiction and mental health component of Coast Mental Health. So the programs that I've worked in, I've always fell under like recovery and reintegration. Before coming to Coast, I was a program coordinator for a youth residential treatment program called Daughters and Sisters, where youth were mandated to 6 months of residential treatment instead of going to custody. And while I was doing that, I just realized there was a very large like mental health component to a lot of what was happening for the youth, why the behaviors were what they were, why the crimes were happening. And it just sort of opened an interest for me to pursue more like the youth mental health side of things. And because of that, I applied for a job with Coast working in the recovery and rehabilitation program. And it kind of just went from there. I worked at that program for quite a few years. And in that time, actually experienced some really intense, distressing situations. And because of that, I ended up having my own journey with PTSD and anxiety in form of panic attacks. And I was off work for a year. And I actually started to do the work with professionals that is at the core of brain training. And so I was doing work around like cognitive behavior therapy, changing my thoughts to really like change my perception to help manage my emotions, learning ways to deal with like an anxiety attack and what to do in that moment. And over the year, it just became like a really grounding force for me. I fell in love with doing that type of work. And I was really fortunate when I came back to work, there was an opportunity to work in the cognitive remediation program. So I applied and I went for it, and I'm forever grateful. I never ever thought, if you asked me a few years ago when I was going through those struggles, that it would be a gift. I would never have said it was. And now I'm so grateful that it happened, because I honestly wouldn't be sitting here doing this work or in this program if I hadn't gone through that experience.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. Thank you for sharing that. And I think just from my perspective, I think from a lot of members' perspectives, not to speak for everyone else, but I think it does make a huge difference having staff and having facilitators that like genuinely understand mental health struggles, that, understand what we're talking about and what exactly is going on with us when we're saying like, oh, I'm having a hard time with my medication or with like stuff like that. Having the actual like experience in that understanding, it is very appreciated, and it does really make a difference. You can tell when you're dealing with someone in the system that just doesn't get it and doesn't really firsthand know what you're talking about. And it's, these are the things we need to talk about. Obviously as facilitators, there's limits in terms of like disclosure and the parameters around that. But there's also such beauty that comes with being able to say to somebody, I know exactly how you feel in that moment because I felt that way before. And, it also just speaks to like the value of peer support, and how there is no shame in any of this. And we need to have these conversations. They're difficult and they're also life-changing. Yeah. And I think if it only goes one way, where you're only having, people who are on the receiving end of programs being the ones that are sharing their experiences, then it sort of reinforces the idea that it's like shameful or something, or like we're the only ones that are going through it, or that I think seeing other people who are in a different position than you in life having similar struggles is really empowering and really connecting.
Yeah, and like self-disclosure is such a powerful tool. And obviously, like you were saying, Mel, is like done in like a professional but like helpful manner as well, right? Like, yeah, a very therapeutic way. So are we sharing that piece of information to benefit ourselves, or are we sharing that piece of information to help empower other people and to like relate and to build that therapeutic relationship? Because from speaking from my own experience, like going through like mental health, like education, a lot of the times we're told that you just can't self-disclose anything. But then how natural and how relatable and how authentic are you showing up for people when now you're questioning if somebody's asked you like how old you are or, you know, what your experiences have been. And you're like, oh, sorry, can't say any of that. And it's kind of like weird and awkward.
It is because it's like, it's connection. Like, as connections are lifeline. And, you know, there's a natural way to connect and there's a natural way to do it within the realm of like a professional place that doesn't turn the conversation about you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. It's like finding that healthy balance of being able to relate, because we have to. The only way any of the stigmas change and the shame is if we're able to relate to each other and sort of challenge the way that we've been looking at it.
Yeah, because it can be like really awkward. Somebody is like asking you a genuine question and then you're like, how does that make you feel? Or I wonder why you're asking that. Like, it's so weird. Like, how old are you? And it's like,
Yeah, why is it important to you to know how old I am?
yeah.
This is it, you know, and it also just shows like throughout the years too, sort of like from an education standpoint, like how we're taught, you know, and it's nice to see now that ways are changing and things are being looked at from a different perspective and like we're not robots. And that, you know, if we're going to work alongside individuals, we have to be able to relate in some capacity that is hopefully helpful for that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I had like, my journey is a little bit different than Mel's, but like I would say like fairly similar. So like I got into brain training. I started working for Coast 13 and a half years ago, so long ago. So I started working as a casual mental health worker. And then from there, I was with working in the community homes, and I had a degree in psychology, and I had done post-bac diploma in psychosocial rehabilitation. And from there, I had applied to work at the Coast Recovery and Rehabilitation Program. So Mel and I have actually known each other for a number of years now.
Handscape me.
And my journey through there was my first experience working in mental health and addiction. So it was very much a bit of like a learning curve for myself. And I was in, I would say like early to mid like 20s when I started working there. So really kind of grew up, I guess, like in that program as well. And a lot of the things that I started noticing was like system barriers, and just like, if I'm encountering them as an advocate and trying to help empower other individuals trying to navigate the mental health system, how is somebody going to easily navigate this system on their own? So then I decided that I was going to go back to school. I'd also kind of experienced some like burnout. So I had started seeing a counselor and like going through my own journey there. And then when I went back to school for social work, I thought, okay, this, you know, unfortunately, having sort of a title behind my name would be like helpful, and was kind of like the driving force for that. And having like a license behind my name to access other resources and services. And it does provide some accessibility that way, I would say. But through that whole process as well, then I went through my own journey. I had a bit of a health scare, and then that kind of prompted some health anxiety, and then that just continued to linger. And I wasn't doing well. So I finally, like, my partner had prompted me to be like, what is going on here? And it was negatively impacting like our relationship. And he really encouraged me to go speak to my doctor. And then from there, I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety and started on medication. And it was interesting to like battle through that like internal stigmatization of actually starting to like take medication, because I was having that like self-gaslighting where it was, oh, well, I'm not as bad as maybe some other people who I've like worked with. And then it was like, well, that doesn't diminish or take away from like my own experience of what I was going through. So that was like a journey in and of itself. But then because I had gone back to school, that opened up an opportunity for me to work with the cognitive remediation team, and Mel had already been working there, and I really enjoy working with her, and she's such an amazing person that I was really interested in working in the same program. And then from there, it just sort of is what it is today. Yeah.
We're very fortunate amongst the team. So it's Amy and myself, and then Janelle as well, who's a cognitive remediation facilitator. And it's incredible to work alongside, Amy and Janelle. We all learn so much from each other. We all bring like different strengths to the table. And it's also very comforting to work amongst a team where we just understand each other and we understand mental health and we understand that some days are going to be a little bit difficult. So maybe this is the day where like, I've only got 20% and Amy has 80, and we can have those open conversations. And it's not something that I take for granted because I know that's not something that everybody gets to experience, and it's like Amy's saying about medication, and we go through like the self-judgment and, what is it going to mean if I take this medication? And a lot of brain training, is like your quality of life is your quality of life. And it needs to be what's important for you and how you're going to be able to have the life that you want. And for some people, having a diagnosis of schizophrenia doesn't have to be like a life-ending diagnosis because there is medication that you're able to take. But the medication can have really intense side effects and you can be really tired and it can be difficult to maybe like accomplish some of the goals that you have. But because of that, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the opportunity to be able to learn the skills that could help you with that. Strategies that can help sort of work alongside the medication so that maybe you can slowly start to build the life that you want, and tailoring things to the person and like what works for them and a gradual start. We always talk about like, it's the small steps that we take to get to the bigger picture. And just being able to offer people that opportunity, when people are receiving like a new diagnosis, like starting to take medication for the first time and that judgment that might come up because of it and being able to like openly have conversations around it.
Yeah, actually. And it's interesting too, because like medication isn't like a be all end all cure. But for me, it was really helpful to get me to a point where I was better able to implement the coping skills that I needed to use to help myself have like a better quality of life and just to like be able to function at a level that I wanted to be functioning at and to be able to like maintain and handle stress so that I was not as like reactive to those like stressful events that unfortunately are a part of life, right?
And the important thing in that is it's the level that you want it to function at and like that, and it's again, it's about the person and like the unique needs of every single person, meeting people where they're at, meeting yourself where you're at, being gentle with yourself, knowing like what I'm able to do and what I'm not able to do. And just because I'm not able to do something doesn't mean that I'm like weak or I'm regressing. It just means that maybe there's a different way that I have to do it right now.
And having like a support system is so huge, not only in our like personal lives, but in our like professional lives. Like Mo was saying, like, this was probably one of the only times working with her and with Janelle where I've really felt like people are walking alongside me and have my back and are supportive, and you can be so open and communicative about what it is that you're experiencing that day without fear of like repercussion or judgment or people going and talking about you behind your back because, you're having a day where you're anxious. And it's actually like empowered me to be able to like during group check-ins, be so upfront and just say like when we're checking in and saying, how am I feeling today? I'm feeling anxious today. I just kind of woke up that way today. So if I seem a little bit off, like that's nothing to do with anybody. It's just kind of what's going on with me personally. So people aren't like, oh, is she kind of mad at me if I'm like a little bit short? It's probably because I'm just lost in my own head a little bit and it has nothing to do with anybody else, right? And it also like, I guess it's like relatable. The groups had been so supportive, and not to say that that's like every single day.
No.
But the odd day that it is.
Yeah. And it just shows, it's like showing people the acceptance piece around it. Like, this is how I feel in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And the only way that I'm able to move through it is if I accept that that's the way that I feel, rather than, the struggle of like, well, I can't tell anybody that this is how I'm feeling. Or if I let like my coworker know and they're going to tell, they're going to treat me different.
It makes a huge difference. Like, I will say I have not been coming to programming for the last couple weeks because I've been having a rough time with my medication. And everybody here knows that. And nobody's like giving me a hard time about the fact that I've been missing podcast meetings and totally not doing any of my obligations. I still haven't made an eye doctor appointment like I said I was going to either.
We'll do a checkout at the end.
Yeah. I think that was my goal like a month ago. But everyone's just like checks in on me, isn't judgmental about it, kind of has an idea from their own experiences, I think, what I need and like how they can help me. And it's just totally, it changes everything compared to being in an environment where people are putting more stress on you.
It's so true. And, you know, like I appreciate you sharing that, like, because it is hard and we do go through those shifts in life, you know, like whether it's like medication changes, something new's come up and we already struggle enough with like the judgment and the negative thoughts, and to have a space that's safe that you can come to and people can just offer support simply by just like sitting beside you or allowing you to do what it is that you want to do. If it's painting and not, you know, even be like sort of invasive in your space, but just know that it's healthy for you to be there right now. It really is, you know, and I think something we're really proud of with the brain training program is, you know, the sessions that we run are an open format, you know, so if you are somebody who comes every week and then there's a period of time where you haven't come, you don't have to start at the beginning, or you don't have to like sign up to be able to join again. You're able to come back whenever you're ready to come back.
Yeah. You don't miss like 3 sessions and like you're out, right?
Yeah. Nobody's like, where were you? You have homework. Yeah.
Well, and like everybody's limitations and capacity can change like day to day, and it might change throughout the day depending on what else is going on.
Is there anything else that you guys really wanted to touch on or emphasize?
I mean, I think just I was having a conversation with a member a few weeks ago about this podcast, and one of the things that they had said was like, if you have a message of what is that, like a message of hope, or what would you want like young people to know that are like maybe, you know, living with or struggling right now with
what's the most important takeaway from this podcast episode?
I mean, that
Such a hard question.
it's a hard question. I know it's such a big question, but you know, like that being your like authentic self is enough, and you know, becoming comfortable with yourself and being able to sort of express and advocate what's happening, because if you share with somebody how you're feeling and the response isn't something that's healthy, then it's just not somebody that, you know, you should be sharing with. And so being able to trust yourself to maybe build connections, it's always easier for the person to say like, it gets better. And it does. And that's part of it, you know?
It's hard to see when you're in it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like so overwhelming.
That's why, like, just for people to know that there is support, there is like places like the young adults, like, come and just be yourself. And that's where the healing starts, you know, and that's where the stigmas start to get like smashed. And
like the group too, right? Like the members themselves, like you guys are the one that has created such a safe space for people to feel like they can come and just be themselves. Like I know a couple members who had like not been here for a while, and then they were like nervous about coming back and like what were people going to say or ask them, things like that, when it was just like people saying, I'm so happy to see you. And like that was just like what they needed in those moments, was just to feel like like their presence and who they are is like valid.
Yeah, we're all very excited to like support each other and like to see each other heal. And there's something very humbling to me about someone that you know is going through a hard time checking on you when you're going through a hard time. It's like, it's a really beautiful sense of community.
it is. And like, yeah, like you're saying, I mean, it's not, we say this all the time, like it's really not lost on us, like what an incredible privilege it is that we have to be able to come to programs like the young adults and like share a space with all of the incredible members, because it is, the groups only work because of the members that are coming to the groups and participating and sharing. And it truly is a privilege, and to hear people's stories and, you know, what people have overcome, what people are working through. And that's why just at the end of the day, keep going.
Yeah.
I would say like, yeah, definitely like one of the key takeaways is like connection and finding your support system and the people who are going to show up for you just as you are. And it's pretty Amazing.
And nobody's beyond hope, you know, and that's the message we always just try to leave with like brain training is like nobody's beyond hope, and there are ways that, you know, your lived experience and whatever you might be going through in the moment can actually be paired with some skills and strategies to really help give you the life that you want for yourself.
Yeah, and recovery is possible. And whatever that looks like for each individual, right? Like everybody's journey is unique to them. And then like in DBT, they say, you know, creating a life worth living. And that's different for every single person. And I guess that's something that we do differently as well with like the brain training program is incorporating the DBT, the dialectical behavioral therapy skills as well, right? With like big part of it, I think, is distress tolerance.
Yes.
And just, you know, being able to have skills to survive those really painful moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I love distress tolerance. I love the cold plunge. The cold plunge was amazing, and we need to do that again. And honestly, the cold plunge in itself was such a beautiful example of like that young adult like community coming together. You like visibly witnessed people using mindfulness skills in terms of like focusing on their breath, calming themselves down as soon as they got into like the cold plunge. And the support and encouragement from each other, and the cheering and the clapping that we all did, like it was just such an empowering experience. And it was like, this is what it's all about. You know, it's the community connection piece
And a little bit of healthy competition.
and there was some very healthy competition. And I'm excited for us to do it again to see where that competition takes us.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like somebody at least once a week is like, we need to do plunge again. Cool.
Yeah. But that's it too, right? It was like everybody was willing to just sort of like try something new, and brain training is about trying new things. You know, we have to make mistakes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's not a failure. Let's just figure out a different way to do it. And the cold plunge was a great example of people just like, I'm going to try something new and I'm going to see how it goes. And if it's not the best experience, there's people around to help.
For me, one of the biggest things with like brain training is it's okay to make mistakes.
We have to.
Yeah, it's just part of the learning process because nobody's perfect and nobody's going to be perfect at something that they're trying for the first time, right? So, and if you are, I mean, more power to you, I guess. It's finding that skill that like you're just naturally gifted at. But for the most of us, it takes like a couple of times, quite a few times. And just being okay with like that process and that journey. And I would say even like bringing it back to Wordle, that's like one of the things that people learn through doing Wordle as well, right? Is like we get it wrong. What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
We just yell at each other a little bit and have fun.
But it's all like, I think we're able to have such a good group and a good community here because you guys facilitate it and run such a good program. And like, it's so cool that we're able to like learn it's filling such a huge gap in mental health treatment, like the cognitive aspect of it. Like it's crazy how much just like playing the Wordle makes a difference. It sounds silly, but like,
and to be honest, when the icebreakers first like came in to play, people were sort of like, this is silly. And it's like,
Yeah.
But an icebreaker is cognitive flexibility. You have to look at things from a different perspective. If we're doing an actual like riddle, the answer that most of the time the group comes up with is better than the answer that we actually have like in the material. So it just shows that there's like another answer that could be the one that works, or there's like two ways that something can be done, you know? And it's, the Wordle and the hurdles and the like connections is some of like the best learning.
and like the distress tolerance stuff and it's a ton of skills that we wouldn't get to learn otherwise. I don't know, it's hard to teach people that stuff outside of just like getting a tub of ice and making them sit in it.
Yeah. And honestly, like teaching people like the different skills and things like that has been so helpful for me in my own like life, and just being able to like manage if I'm experiencing like anxiety or panic attack, or I'm like, you know, in a bit of like a low.
Yeah.
And being able to like pick myself back up. Because sometimes it's like, I don't know, I want to speak for both of us, but sometimes it's like I'm teaching this to people. How am I not able to like manage my own symptoms? Where then it's like, well, now I'm a fraud. Right? So being able to be like, okay, no, I know what I need to do. It's just doing it, and then having the support to actually then do it. And like I've learned so much about myself, about the different skills that work for me throughout this like process of being able to like facilitate brain training.
We use brain training strategies all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and part of it, like the cold plunge, that was the first time I'd ever done something like that. And I was nervous about it, but it was cool to like have a new experience with other people who were having it as like a first experience too.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a fear with it, but there was also like an excitement about like, oh, what could happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's so overlooked how big of a component of mental health that stuff is. It's just like your cognitive functioning, your, like DBT skills, and then also the community, the being able to share.
Yeah. Well, especially when for like so long, a lot of the mental health system was basically like isolative.
Yeah.
Right? Like people were othered and put in like a separate category, like us versus them. And then to like reintegrate back into the community, like that wasn't very well done the way that it all worked out. And like so to be able to find the group of people that is here is really like amazing, and to like build such a supportive community, right? Like that's not an easy thing to do.
Well, thank you guys so much for running such a good program and everything you do, and also for being here to share with everyone today and be so open about your experiences. And everyone here really appreciates you.
Cute. Can we do a quick checkout?
Yeah, we can do a checkout.
The only question we'll answer from the checkout will be how you're feeling in this moment.
I feel pretty good about myself. I'm excited for my coffee when I'm done this. But it was a great conversation, and I feel very fortunate that I got to unexpectedly have this conversation with you guys.
I'm feeling very grateful for this opportunity. I really enjoyed having this conversation, and Kelsey, you've been an amazing host. Yeah.
And I also feel grateful and reflective. It was a really lovely conversation to have, and I really appreciate your hosting and the way that you ask questions and your genuine like interest and care. It's very evident. So I feel very, very fortunate, I think, for both of us that we were asked to do this. And I look forward to more brain training in the future.